chemicals, insecticides, nematicides, fungicides, herbicides, and even the fertilizers kill the life in the soil, and therefore the life in the whole countryside. Why do we do this? Why is it government policy, and has been for decades, to encourage and to even subsidize farmers and growers to do this? In a single word, it's born of fear. This is an extension of the philosophy that leads to dosing ourselves and our children with antibiotics, to bleaching light switches, and buying food only if it's hermetically sealed in sterilized plastic film. We have been taught to fear the natural, wild and living land that we share. This is Victorian science, bolstered by 20th century industrialism. This is not the science of the 21st century. It is the past, not the future. We now know that more than half of the cells in our body are not human cells. They are bacteria and fungus and other plant and animal cells that colonize our body, inside and out, from the moment we are born. Trying to eradicate germs and live in a sterile, shrink-wrapped bubble is not only impossible, but it would also be as unhealthy as we could possibly be. Medical scientists are still discovering all the healthy natural processes that our host of beneficial bacteria and other microbes encourage and enable in our lives, from good digestion to mental health, from fighting cancer to preventing obesity, from helping with allergies to helping fight off infections. Healthy soil is even more complicated and heavily populated than our healthy bodies. Millions of species and trillions of individuals live in soils. Similar numbers again live in the sea. Where did this idea come from that the best way to grow crops is first to sterilize the soil, to kill and remove all the life, and then to feed the crops on pure dissolved chemicals while fighting back the microbes and insects day and night? Could it have been the chemical corporations preying on our fears? If you keep killing the living biome of the land year after year, what happens? Life fights back, and following the laws of ecological succession, it tries to recolonize the landscape. The first to arrive each year are the vegetarians. It has to be. There's nothing else for anyone to eat other than the roots and leaves of your young crop. If you somehow get past the problem of these first colonists, the next to arrive would be their predators, the nematodes that eat root-feeding nematodes, the insects that eat leaf-eating greenfly, the crows that eat snails, etc., etc. But if each year you immediately kill the vegetarians, then the meat-eaters will never show up. You will keep on reliving year one. You will never get to years 2, 3, and 4, when a healthy balance would naturally re-establish itself. Fungus is an amazingly important, overlooked, and misunderstood part of soil life. They are fungi that will capture, trap, and kill nematodes with loop traps as they pass by. Mycorrhizal fungi form deep and intimate relationships with living plant roots. Having done so, they exchange not only water from plant to plant, but also whatever each plant needs. In some ways, mycorrhizal fungi are believed to act as the nerve system or the brains of the living world, living land. They help to decide species diversity. If they detect too many plants of one species in a small area, they will absolutely starve, kill and recycle individual plants to make room for more diversity. I wonder, does this ring any bells with our obsession with monocrops? On the other hand, in a healthy, balanced environment, like a mixed woodland with a good understory and massive plant and animal diversity, mycorrhizal fungi will provide plants and trees with invaluable protection from drought, communication about predators and insect attacks, and the continual redistribution of nutrients and minerals. The roots of large trees can go very deep, and they can find water and minerals that smaller plants could never tap into, but the fungal threads will make them available to all of them. Colonies of bacteria that live on and around roots can extract phosphates from solid rock. they can extract nitrates from the air, and they pass these directly into the roots in exchange for sugar sap that the plant gives them. Then fungal threads, mycorrhizal fungi, redistribute these nutrients to the whole living community, exactly as needed. This is very similar to the way that a living body with a healthy immune system works, and in many ways the complex and subtle balances of healthy soil in a healthy, thriving countryside are very similar to an immune system for the land. By the skillful use of a microscope, the inoculations of living compost and living compostees, it's possible to significantly regenerate soil from being largely dead in a year or less, not the 3 to 5 years that previous generations of organic farmers would have expected. They were limited to their traditional trusted methods, received wisdom, personal judgment, but with a microscope and a good understanding of the realistic needs of the grower and a good understanding of a good range of key indicator species, problems in the soil can be diagnosed and a compost mixed and brewed to order and also checked with the microscope, and it can be put on to provide exactly what is needed on a week by week, month by month basis. The regeneration of our countryside is now not only possible, but it is an imperative. The carbon that is not sequestered in our soil and the life that is not thriving in our countryside is a disgrace. We have the knowledge, the means, and the urgency to get on with this. Future generations will not look back well on us if we stand idly by, letting their soil die and wash away in our summer storms.
Thank you, Nigel. Thank you, John. And hello, everyone. I'm Glyn, known as the Soil Guy. Thank you very much for coming along. It's been quite a journey for me. This has started back in 2015 when Dr. Elaine Ingham came all the way to Jersey from America and basically said Jersey could be the centre or the leading area in this, or the leading island in this area. So I full-heartedly took it on, and that's what I've been doing for the last 4 years or so. So this is just a little bit of a journey that I've been on. We're getting more and more farmers interested. We've got Justin in the audience here, who is actually an active regenerative farmer. He's gone to Soil Association and hopefully further. So he's seen the benefits of it, and we will be tasting his potatoes later. So thank you, Justin. So with further ado, I'm going to just go through it. This regenerating Jersey soil is critical. We're at a stage now with 3 poison reservoirs in 2 years. The nitrate levels in the drinking water, falling biodiversity and all the rest of it, we have to do something. And it all starts in the soil. Population and all the rest of it is very important, but if the soil is destroyed and the soil, then, as we call it, the natural ecosystem services fail us in Jersey, what have we got? We have very little left. So we've got to start looking at it in a much more holistic and all-rounded way. So we measure things very much along the biodiversity side. When was the last time you drove your car down a 5-mile road and actually got a butterfly splat on the windscreen? It hasn't happened for quite a long time now. That is the level of our biodiversity in the island. It has fallen dramatically, and it all starts from the soil. So if we're putting more toxins in the soil, that's going to impact further up the biodiverse chain. Polluted reservoirs, nitrates, we've talked about this, and we've got to start looking at chemicals in our food just aren't a good thing. There are lots of economical benefits coming this way. Today I was just reading in that the white paper has just been written on new blockchain technology for recording carbon from the atmosphere into the soil and rewarding farmers. This is stuff that's happening in the real world. If we're not onto it, we will lose it. And with our digital and financial sectors, we really need to be onto this big time. So the next, this is a film that was done here in Jersey. The BBC One filmed it for a whole year. It was publicised, I don't know how many people have seen it. It was publicised across the whole of the UK. People are looking at Jersey as a microcosm of the UK. What happens here with our poison reservoirs will happen in the UK. And if anyone knows about Michael Gove and what his theory about the whole thing and his philosophy going forward, They are looking at us. They're watching what we're doing, following this film. So we'll try and see if it works. Can everyone hear? Yep.
It's a lovely summer's day, a bit breezy, but just the sort of weather to attract much-needed visitors to Jersey's sandy beaches. But this weather also brings an unwelcome visitor. This is it, a carpet of slimy, stinking sea lettuce.
Sea lettuce is a type of seaweed. It's common on beaches across the southwest. But now, every summer, it chokes Jersey's St Albans Bay. Sea lettuce needs chemicals called nitrates to survive and to thrive, and one source of those on this island is artificial fertilisers.
They're used in agriculture, and in particular the cultivation of the Jersey Royal.
There are plenty more sources of nitrates, but there's no disputing that at least some of the fertiliser used on this popular spud eventually makes its way to those unpopular layers of sea lettuce. Ironically, a different kind of seaweed used to be the farmer's friend.
Seaweed has always been part of life here in Jersey for generations. Convoys of horse-drawn carts would have trundled up and down this cobbled slipway, gathering what the islanders called wrack. Here it is, tons of it. They used it to fertilise their fields and to help feed their families.
But these days, it's all a bit more high-tech.
And this time in the mornings, first thing, I'm looking at the weather, seeing the radar to see where the rain's coming from.
Paul Carr is one of the island's biggest potato growers. The chemicals he uses don't just come with a cost to the local environment, they make a severe dent in his profits.
23 units of nitrogen, 4 units of phosphate and 13 units of potassium.
And how much is this costing you to put this out?
A bag like that is about, I think it's 150, 160 quid.
Per bag, and you've got,
Per bag.
how many bags would you use in a season?
300.
Right.
So
There's a big investment in the chemicals.
Yes.
Paul says he has no option but to use chemicals if he's going to stay competitive.
That's the only way we can make the business profitable is by using these artificial fertilisers. The supermarkets won't pay, if we go totally organic, you get half the crop and they won't pay any extra for it.
But all that fertiliser has to end up somewhere. And a big problem for Jersey is that some of it finds its way into the water supply.
The very intensive potato growing season, which is generally between January and May, where we see large spikes of nitrates coming into the watercourses in the island and then into the reservoirs.
It's pretty easy to see instantly what the nitrate levels are in Jersey's water supply. Jersey Water and the government here produce this online map, and the red areas and the yellow areas show where nitrate levels are at their highest. So if I was to zoom the map in and we looked at an area feeding into a reservoir here in the east of the island, we can look at a particular stream. So I'm going to choose the Queens Valley side stream down here. We can see that the nitrate reading in that stream is more than double the recommended maximum.
And that recommended maximum is 50 milligrams per litre. Above this, say experts, nitrates can be harmful to health.
If it goes above 50 for a short period of time, there's very little risk to health. The studies around the world where there have been people drinking water at 200, 250 for extended periods of time, it can lead to increased risk of certain cancers. It is possible by putting in very expensive plant to remove the nitrates from the drinking water, but then we'd have a stream of high nitrate to be disposed of from the water treatment plant, which presumably would go out to the ocean. So it's always better not to have the problem to deal with.
A recent review carried out by Jersey's government suggests that the amount of nitrates leaking into the water supply needs to be cut by around 30%. Since then, they've said they'll offer financial incentives to farmers to comply.
But could there be a cheap and natural solution? Amateur biologist Glyn certainly thinks so.
Once we've
taken a soil sample from a farmer's field. We'll then take a bit and put it onto the slide, which then goes under the microscope, and we're literally counting the biology.
Glyn believes the answer lies in protecting tiny soil organisms which recycle vital nutrients.
That's the protozoa, and what it's doing is it's gobbling up all these tiny little things which are bacteria. The more we have of these in the soil, obviously the better the nutrient cycling. The more nutrients available to the plant, the less we have to apply synthetic foods to the plant, because Mother Nature's doing it for us.
And to provide a natural boost to Mother Nature, Glyn's using tea bag techniques to make his own homemade compost.
So the compost is full of microbes. All we're doing here is we're blowing air through the net and extracting those microbes into liquid, which then can be applied into the soil or as a foliar feed to protect it from disease.
Glyn has convinced Paul Carre to help improve his theory.
We've got a field right next door to his father's house, and his father was growing some of his potatoes with this compost tea in his greenhouse, and I went to have a look at them, and I was quite surprised at how they looked. So we'll have an experiment with this field, see if we can make a go of it like that.
It's March, and the early warm spring days mean it's time to go to work. Glyn sprays his compost tea onto the seed potatoes.
I haven't said I'm mad, but that's worked. We've got to try something.
And in they go. Three months later, and the compost tea crop is ready for harvesting. Paul checks the plants for disease.
At the moment, I don't see any, so they're pretty clean.
For the first time, Paul has produced a crop without the help of man-made fertiliser.
So the microbes are doing the job for us, which saves the farmer obviously quite a lot of expense. And as you can see, the potatoes are pretty good. No complaints there.
The test field is packed with spuds, and they're looking pretty good.
I'm very impressed. The crop we're getting out of here and the quality of the potato, it's impressive. I didn't expect to get half the crop that we're getting.
Getting farmers like Paul on board is just one step in a long journey to sort out Jersey's nitrate problem.
The message you get here is really very clear. Islanders are finally working together to try and find a new solution to a very old problem. But the clock is ticking. The more chemicals you put on the land, the more money Jersey has to spend clearing them up. And unless that solution is agreed, everyone is a loser.
So that was the film, which has been out and about. Paul has now gone into his second year.